and welcome back to this channel. My name is Muhammad, and today this video's topic is of the Harlem Hellfighters, which is a World War I regiment known as the 369th Regiment. When the First World War began, many African Americans were eager to join the armed forces in the hopes that in serving their country they would change white Americans' views on black people. However, for a while, African Americans mostly refused from service. But over time, the U.S. would realize, you know, when they finally entered the war, they would realize they didn't really have the amount of troops they would need. So they passed the Selective Service Act of 1917, which allowed anybody, which had allowed a lot of different people, including African Americans, to enlist into service. And from a local National Guard militia known as the 15th New York National Guard Regiment, which was made to suppress the New York draft riots in 1864, the 369th Regiment was reformed from the New York 15th New York National Guard. Well, before that, first the 15th New York National Guard became the 15th New York Infantry Regiment. The infantry would be called into federal service at Camp Whitman, New York, on 25th July 1917, where they would learn basic military practices. And after their training at Camp Whitman, the 369 was put into service across New York, guarding rail line, construction sites, and other camps. They would then go to Camp Wadsworth, Spartanburg, South Carolina, where they received actual training in combat. But while there, the 369th would face racism from the local communities. Um, they would refuse to sell them anything because they were black. And some of the other New York regiments weren't happy about it, apparently. I don't know. When they were deployed, African American regiments were given labor tasks rather than combat missions. Uh, However, due to the U.S. Army segregation policy, the 369th was instead given to the French to be part of the French 16th Division of the 4th Army. Now, the 369th would continue to wear their U.S. uniforms, but they would also be given French rifles, helmets, and equipment. In the United States, the 369th was looked down upon by their peers, and the French would be given a pamphlet by the Americans called Secret Information Concerning Black American Troops, which warned the French civil authorities of the alleged inferior and racist tendencies of African Americans, which, of course, is false. The 369th, however, despite this, was treated similarly to other French units, since the French hadn't much concern for race, since they've been dying on their own land for like 3 years and needed troops. And besides, there were already African units from in the French army from France's colonies in Africa, uh, such as like Morocco and Senegal. Throughout the First World War, the 369th would endure the battles of the Champagne-Marne as well as the Meuse-Argonne, and on the 26th November, the 369th made its last advance towards the Rhine, becoming the first unit in World War One to do so. After the war, members of the regiment would be awarded Distinguished Service Crosses, but there was only one Medal of Honor that was carried out. That Medal of Honor would belong to Private Henry Johnson, a former rail station porter from Albany, New York, who earned widespread acclaim in the 369 for his extraordinary feats in combat in France, leading to the moniker Black Death. In May 1918, Johnson and Private Needham Roberts valiantly repelled a 24-man German patrol, despite both of them sustaining severe injuries amidst the chaos. Johnson directed Roberts to alert the French units about the approaching enemy, but Roberts would end up returning to Johnson under fire to help him, and together they would fight until a German grenade ended up incapacitating Roberts. Though undeterred, Johnson took it upon himself to maintain the defensive line and shield his comrade. With the Johnson would keep firing his rifle until the bullets run out, and until he ended up running out of grenades to throw. And when his rifle ran out of bullets, he started hitting Germans with the butt of his gun until it broke and splintered. And eventually, he would pull out a bolo knife. Reports suggest that Johnson may have slain at least four German sailors and wounded around 30 others, enduring at least 21 injuries himself, recognizing their valor. Over 100 men from the 369th received American and/or French decorations, with Johnson becoming the first American to be awarded the Croix de Guerre. On 13th December 1918, 1 month after Armistice Day, the French government awarded the Croix de Guerre to 170 individual members of the 369th, and a unit citation was awarded to the entire regiment. It was pinned to the unit's colors by General Lebouche. The 369th Regiment also had a military band, and were called the Hellfighters Band, and they were relied upon not only in battle but also for morale. So by the end of their tour, they became one of the most famous military bands throughout Europe, as they followed the 369th overseas and were highly regarded and known for being able to boost morale. While overseas, the 369th Regiment made up less than 1% of the soldiers deployed, but was responsible for over 20% of the territory of all land assigned to the United States. And during the war, the 369th Regimental Band became famous throughout Europe by introducing the until then unknown to Europe the music called jazz to British, French, and other European audience. And at the end of the war, the 369th would return to New York City, and on 17 February 1919 paraded through the city. This day became an unofficial holiday of sorts for all of Harlem. Many black school children were dismissed from school so they could attend the parade. With the addition of many adults, there were thousands of people that lined the streets to see the 369th Regiment. The parade began on Fifth Avenue at 61st Street, proceeded uptown past ranks of white bystanders, turned west on 110th Street, and then turned onto Lenox Avenue and marched into Harlem, where black New Yorkers packed the sidewalks to see them. The parade became a marker of African American service to the nation, a frequent point of reference for those campaigning for civil rights. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say about the Harlem Hellfighters. The 369th Regiment had fought so fiercely throughout the war that that they were called the Hellfighters by Germans, though this may have just been U.S. propaganda. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say for today. And yeah, thanks for watching. If you're still watching, goodbye.